Good morning, Chief.
Morning.
All right. So Saturday morning, beautiful day here in the Adirondacks. We've been asked to give a bit more detail about our process to install the flooring. So we started to, when we ordered our material from Carlisle, wide plank floors, we had to calculate what we needed. We chose a 7-inch wide plank, but that wasn't ideal to go all the way across this floor. What's our width here?
16 feet and 1/2 inch.
All right. And so we've got 25 courses of 7-inch. That left us with about 17.5 inches left over. And so we had to buy, and we want to have an expansion gap around the perimeter. So
Yeah.
how'd we handle that?
So we got 9-inch wide pieces for the front and back wall. So we laid it out. Turns out they're going to be cut to 8 1/4 finished, which makes it appear that there's all full courses from one side to the other without having a small rip.
Yeah, the journeyman floor mechanic often will just start laying it in on one side and hope for the best by the time they get to the other side. And the worst thing that could happen is if they end up with a very narrow piece against the opposite wall.
Yeah, well, it's like when you're doing a deck outside, you always want to start from the outside and work towards the house because you don't know what you're going to end up with on the outside, especially if you're putting a border or something like that.
How did we handle, tell us how we handled the coursing before we leave that point in the bathroom. We got started in here, laying it in, and once we came around the door opening, we then took a measurement to measure our distance from the door opening to the tub, because once again, we did not want to end up with a really small piece against the tub. So what did we do here, Chief?
Yeah, so we're using one of the 9-inch pieces because the piece is actually a little over 8 inches wide. We're going to leave about...
Your hand is on a 7-inch, and then beside it we've got a 9er, then two 7s, and then we end up, the dimension we have there...
About 8 and 3/32.
Okay, so we'll...
8 and 3/32.
We'll rip a 9-inch piece, and so we've got nice wide planks all the way across the floor. It's not identical to what we did out in the main living room.
Yeah, I got to
but you don't
fit it
see
to the tub because the tub, it's a fiberglass tub. It's a little bit whipped in the middle. It's a little wider at the middle than it is on the ends. So I got to fiddle with that piece.
Do you have any other tips for us, just in terms of choosing the sizes?
I think I cut one of these as a sample, maybe not, but what?
This is your sample that you got tucked
Oh,
in
right here. Yeah. So, by back cutting the edge, it lets you tip it in without hitting the tub, because if you don't do that, it can get tight against the tub and you won't be able to push it in. But you can see how the tub is not square just by this gap here, and as I slide it this way, it hits the tub right there. So I have to rip this piece, and then I gotta kind of fair it with the sander. But if you rip a back cut on an angle...
Show us what you mean. Let me get a good shot at that. Okay, just undercut it a little bit.
Yeah, this way when I'm sanding it, I'm not sanding the whole thickness of the piece. I'm sanding just a part of it, so it's easier.
And you're able to keep your groove.
Yeah, so that'll let me, sometimes if it's too tight, you can't get it in. You got to rip the back of the groove off in order to set it in, and then you got to face nail it on both sides. This way I'll still be able to use the tongue and groove, and I can face nail it just here.
All right, really looks good. Now, in terms of technique, since we're in this area, let's not leave this just yet. This last piece that you've got your hand on, we can't get our big floor nailer in there. It's not enough room for it. So what's your plan to secure this piece?
I'm just going to use 6-penny galvanized finish nails, and we'll fill them.
But I'm talking about this piece. You're going to be...
Oh yeah, I'm gonna toenail this with 6-penny finish nails by hand.
By hand.
Yeah.
Okay.
Pre-drill it.
You won't see that fastener. Good. All right.
And then what we're doing here on butt joints, just for a look, I'm putting 4 cut nails.
Can you show us what a cut nail looks like? And maybe while we're on that point, you can make a few comments about how you lay out your lengths here.
That's a cut nail.
Oh, look at that.
Just a steel wedge-shaped nail.
And those are traditionally used for what?
Flooring. That's what they used years ago.
We were kind of going for an antique look is what we're going for. We admire a friend's floor back in Dallas where he's used reclaimed flooring. It's just beautiful.
So imagine nailing a
trying to
whole
get close
floor
to that.
by hand with those nails.
Imagine.
Yeah.
Rich, bit more about the process. In the log home here, in the basement below, we have a closed cell foam insulation underneath the floor, which itself acts as a vapor barrier. But as an additional precaution, best practice is to have an underlayment, a vapor barrier under the floor. How are you handling that?
Well, I'm not a floor expert or a floor installer, but years and years ago, I worked on Fire Island on Long Island, and there was a floor installer there, second generation, and the red rosin paper that they use for the floors, it's not a moisture barrier and it's not a vapor barrier. All it's for is to help the floor slide as they're working on it, because when you watch real professional floor installers with strip flooring, they lay 75% of the flooring out first and they leave it separated. And as they go along with their nailer, they hit it in, they pull it in with their foot, they hit it with the mallet, and then they whack it with the flooring installer. So all it does is help you slide the piece to the next. That's all it's for. Because if you take red rosin paper and drip water on it, it's like dripping water in oil. It just spreads out and soaks it. It's by no means a moisture barrier.
So in this case, what are we using?
We're using 15-pound tar paper. I'm not worried about moisture. The crawl space is dry. It's spray foam. We actually have a coat of water seal on the Advantech. And the floor is air dried or kiln dried, one or the other. It's at its minimum moisture when it's milled.
And our room is conditioned. We've got the mini split going. We also have dehumidification in here. So we feel like we've planned well for vapor control.
Yeah.
What's this doll we're looking at over your shoulder here, by the way?
This is the wood stove. It took 5 people to move it in here.
Wow, just wow. Isn't that handsome?
It's about 3 times what's needed for this cabin.
Boy, the proportion is fantastic. And the color of this glaze, I think they call it basil. When the light's on it just right, you can see the green basil color. Boy, is that pretty. So distracted by that. Looking good. So I wanted to get you to let's go back to the joints in the flooring. Carlisle supplied very long lengths. The average length of what they gave us here is almost 16 feet long. And the pieces that you got your hands on, I think I measured those 181 inches. So we were actually able to do these right in front of the hearth, all in one shot. But we've got some joints throughout the floor. Can you give us some tips on how you lay out the joints where you have to piece to make your run?
I myself like what's called a running bond, which is kind of like a brick pattern, but maybe repeating every 4 or 5 courses so it doesn't look like it's a patch. This is very random because it's end matched.
You wouldn't want to have 2 joints real close together. These are a little bit close, but it looks all right.
Yeah, it's because of the lengths. If the lengths were a lot shorter, we'd have a lot more seams. But because these are end matched, everything you cut off, you have to start or finish with on the other end.
So as I look here, I see a joint right here in the middle of the screen, and then another 4 courses over, we've got another one in a similar place.
One over there. So they call it a running bond.
You need a few short pieces, but when they give you nice long lengths, it really gives you some good options to place the joints where you want
And if
it.
you're really old like me, in bricklaying they call it jack on jack.
Explain.
That's what they call the pattern. I think it comes from England. That random brick pattern, they call it jack on jack.
I see. And we've taken care here in the circulation area going into the bathroom. We don't have many joints here at all. But those that we do have, we're going to capitalize on it with the cut nails for a decorative effect.
Okay, so what we did here with the door, what I like to do, I like to hang my doors and leave them low and come in with
When you say leave them low, what do you mean?
lower than the floor height.
Okay.
So now when we come in with the floor, we can use a block of the wood as a guide for the Japanese saw and cut everything right through, so it's a nice tight fit. There's nothing wrong with hanging the door after the floor's in, but by doing it this way, you're not raising or lowering one side, and if you're not careful, you might cut too much off, and when you level a door, you might be up off the floor with it.
Maybe PFS would hand us a Japanese saw so that we can show our viewers what we're talking about. Not everybody's familiar with what that looks like, but it lets us lay it very flat on the floor and get a nice tight
What
fit.
you do, you use that as a guide for the saw, and then when you cut through, it'll slip right under nice and tight.
These are nice, thin, we prefer these genuine Japanese saws to the Irwin. The Irwin's all right, but it's a bit thicker and not quite as flexible. You can really get tight to the floor with these. Okay.
You know, and just make sure you leave a gap at the perimeter. Our trim is 7/8 thick, so we left about a 3/8 gap.
All right. And just have some spacers in there to govern that. All right, really looking good. So now that we've got all the cuts, and the bathrooms are tricky because it's a small space and you've got to cut for the plumbing and so forth, so that takes quite a bit of time. So this afternoon we're going to lay in more of the field. We ought to make some good progress on this. All right, well, and what about finish? In this case, this is pre-finished by the manufacturer, saved us a lot of time, and frankly, I think they do a better job than we could.
Yeah, and if it had to be, it could be lightly sanded over time and finished again if it got, you know, scratched up too much.
Well, the scratches from the dog's toenails will maybe give it some character, we hope. All right, really looking good, Chief. Well, we want to ask our viewers to
Like and follow.
and subscribe for sure. Nicely done.